People like Zelda because it's a series about companionship. The original presented a lone hero's isolated journey where aside from monsters and old folks in caves, there was no contact with others. Since then, Link's adventures have been populated with characters to care about and, just as importantly, characters who care about Link. The latter became especially prominent with the release of Ocarina of Time, where in order to easily navigate a much bigger Hyrule and its newfound access, players were given an informative companion. Navi provided an avenue to inform players about lore, enemies, and gameplay at just about any time they wanted, and admittedly at a bunch of moments that they didn't. From a narrative standpoint, Navi shifted the series from being about a boy alone on a journey to being about a boy on one with a friend. While Nintendo could have easily given all of Navi's functions to a disembodied block of text, they opted to make an actual character, and for me this added a new layer of depth to their stories. Link's companions usually fall into one of two camps: those who aid him because of instructions from a higher power, and those who accompany him for their own personal gain. Although both types offer interesting relationship dynamics, I've always found the ones who help Link for their own benefit, like Midna, Tetra, and Tattle, to be far more interesting and genuine. Primarily this is because they have their own desires and goals that aren't necessarily the same as Link's, making them more fully rounded characters. Take Tattle for example. She's far from the embodiment of purity that Navi seems to be, and she even starts out as Link's enemy. Her goal is to reunite with her brother, and once she and Link join together, it's only because Link's objective somewhat aligns with hers. She does not start out as a hero, but over time, as she realizes that the fate of Clocktown is more important than her personal desires, she becomes a hero. At the start of the game, she really only cares about her world, but after spending time with Link and witnessing his selfless deeds, Tattle begins to care about the entire world. She's pretty much the Han Solo of the Zelda universe. Regardless of how dynamic Link's guide is, each one leaves their own unique mark on the series, the player, and Link himself. Inversely, Link, through the player's actions, also leaves a mark on each of them. Link and his guide grow together, and seeing two characters support each other as they go on to do something for a greater purpose has always and will always be something that people can connect to.
People like Zelda because it inspires memories. What do Zelda fans love to do? They reminisce about iconic moments, first experiences, legends that keep retelling themselves in new ways. It's the hero's journey, classic high fantasy, what's not to love? Except something's wrong here, did you catch it? Zelda's setting isn't a generic fantasy universe. It might seem to be at first glance, big castle, magic sword, but when you really get into it, Hyrule is interesting and unconventional. It's uniquely Zelda. That's why Zelda's memorable, not just epic tropey fantasy crap, but a living system full of interesting people. Inconsequential NPCs really aren't that inconsequential. What does that mean? Fair question. Okay, so who populates Zelda's world? When Zelda transitioned to 3D, it came time to flesh out the universe, start designing characters in a way that's more involved and nuanced than it was when we were just designing various bats and mummies. And you know what that means, it's time for fictional fantasy races. So most writers or designers would be like, I know, let's throw in some elves and some dwarves. It's finally our turn to exhume Tolkien's corpse for the 50,000th time. But Zelda's like, no, let's do rock people and fish people. Bam, you got Gorons and Zoras, twice as memorable as the dwarf, elf, halfling fantasy race starter pack. It's so much easier to care about characters when they aren't retreading old ground. You get to discover for yourself that Zoras have a monarchy and are really into extreme sports, and that Gorons are strong dopey bomb farmers. If the elves are suffering from a devastating crop failure, yeah, whatever. But if the Gorons are starving because there are no more rocks to eat, oh no! Not my little rock sons! And they're just like your basic bread and butter. Things get even more interesting with the really minor idiosyncratic characters. I keep thinking of Salvatore from Wind Waker. There are so many layers to this guy. He looks like Vincent Price, as illustrated by Richard Scarry. He runs a battleship game, but he's really not that into it, so he's got the whole disgruntled employee thing going on, but he needs so badly to make a living that he provides his own sound effects, and, they're good. They're real good. Really, how often do you get something like that out of a game? How often do you see a character like Tingle? Right, I understand why no one likes him. He makes annoying noises, he wears an undersized leotard, his only purpose is taking huge chunks of your money. But they refuse to stop putting him in games for 10 years, despite universal hatred. That's a sign of real individual creativity, and these are AAA games we're talking about here. Man, how can you not respect that? If you played Wind Waker 10 years ago, and today you talk to someone about it, you could be like, hey, remember that dancing guy in the jail who gives you a Game Boy? Or remember that sad guy with the Battleship game who went kaboom? And they'd know exactly what you're talking about. Now there's a connection where there wasn't one before. Not many games can have that effect on people. The way Zelda makes the mundane interesting, with NPCs and with everything else, that'll never stop impressing me.
People like Zelda because it has a profound sense of meaning and purpose. For a number of games in the series, the introductory cinematic contains a set of ancient scrolls telling the story of a boy cloaked in green saving the land from evil. Because of this, even those who have never played a game in the series can immediately recognize the general history of the world they are about to enter into. While we can surely view this as a simple preface for the journey ahead, it also serves as an outspoken expression of the rich mythology present in the world of The Legend of Zelda. A curse cursed millennia ago, carrying on its legacy to this day, whenever that may be. Good versus evil, driven by the hands of destiny. Link is used as a vehicle for us to experience living as the spirit of the hero, fulfilling a never-ending, age-old prophecy. Every iteration of Link, every soul that the spirit lives on through is a key component in the prosperity of the endangered land. It gives elemental purpose to our quest subsequent to saving a princess. Link doesn't become a hero by happenstance, it's in his blood, it's his purpose. Every Zelda game we play isn't just some random adventure disassociated from the rest, it's an adventure that's expected to manifest, and it's one that we ourselves are expected to carry out. We don't feel disinterested because we know that in the end will prevail. We feel driven because we know that it's our duty to overcome the challenges that lay ahead. I feel like atmosphere is too broad of a term to really describe the sort of innate sense of sentimentality in each Zelda game. It's an aura. The world isn't just fleshed out, it's very heavily romanticized. Strange characters, artifacts, just so many subtle inclusions that aren't really even vital to the gameplay. We're presented with a setting, a full universe with real people and a real history. There's much less of a meta appeal to the series compared to other games. Each iteration is designed with that in mind. Tons of games have little extra additions like time trials, mini games, etc., and Zelda does too to an extent, but the special thing is that they're all bound to the context of the world. Quirky dialogue with a strange character and a menu option yield the same result, but we all know which one is more likely to entice us to play. We're willing to suspend our disbelief for works like these because we connect to them. Now, I can't say that every game is going to connect with everyone on a deep spiritual level or something, because that's probably impossible. But there's always such an overwhelmingly present sense of wholeness that it's hard not to at least get intrigued and invested. I can say wholeheartedly that seeing Twilight Princess for the first time when I was a little dude was the most, staggering aroma of curiosity and awe that I've been engulfed by through a game. The dark woods crowding the screen, while a determined, mysterious wolf splits the fog, dodging each oncoming tree. I'm not just talking about this for the sake of reminiscing, I'm talking about it because that's the kind of intimate impact Zelda has on people. You know when you're younger and everything feels so much more grand and bewildering than it is in reality? That's what Zelda is. It doesn't matter how old you are. This is that Nintendo magic. The legend of the hero is the legend of every person who plays a Zelda game.
People like Zelda because the games are an original and unique experience to everyone who plays it. Although since inception, Zelda was first and foremost meant to take the player on a quest full of wonder and curiosity, like how Shigeru Miyamoto wandered through forests and caves on the outskirts of his small town. They certainly haven't lacked in the variety department. Time, masks, seasons, boats, multiplayer, wolves, and birds. The point is, put two Zelda games side by side, and it's very unlikely that they will have a lot of similarities next to basic gameplay and characters. And even in the rare cases, it's usually just art style. Almost every major console game since the very original has come packed with a brand new mechanic, art style, tone, and atmosphere, making the series more accessible to newcomers because each game can be a completely different experience. This may lead to certain games in the series being considered flawed, depending on who you ask, but the sheer difference from person to person makes the risk worth it. Like for instance, my favorite Zelda game is Wind Waker. I love it because of its art style, because you get to sail around a mysterious yet welcoming open world, goodies and challenge around every corner. Someone else might hate it because the sailing is too slow and the open world might be too barren for their liking. And let's not forget to mention how perfectly this suits a company like Nintendo, whose creative ideology is built around trying out new things that have never been done before. And yeah, I said that lots of people can dislike one of the games in the series, but these games are popular, my jabroni, and has an impact on people around the world that most of us will never even meet. When something new is tried, it's usually beautifully executed to the point where people consistently say, yeah, Zelda is really great. And that's when you know you've done something right with your series. It's not every day when you see, say, Assassin's Creed, like, yep, you can be a moose now, cling to walls, do general moose recreational things. And perhaps if they did, the fanbase would be scared out of their minds over such a drastic curve in the gameplay. We don't know if Ubisoft has the sheer skill to execute it as well as most Zelda games can. My point is Nintendo has a lot of imagination up their sleeves. What's unique about Zelda, as well as the fanbase, is that everyone can have a game to call their favorite, their own, all because the creative minds behind it constantly try to take the series in a brand new direction when it comes time to make a new one. And I'm stoked because of that. We don't see Zelda games often, but when we do, there's always that creativity, that inspirational charm and variation from the last entry, that fully realized creative vision Nintendo has done so well for decades. And it's kind of nice. Look, Nintendo may not be a perfect company, and their business practices are often questionable, but if there's one thing they know how to do, it's how to make a masterpiece of a series.
People like Zelda?
People like Zelda II.
Man, I don't know about you guys, but are for baby. Personally, when I want adventure in a video game, I want to do it without any handholding. Now, if that sounds as hype to you as it does to me, yo, go play Zelda 2! Adventure of Link is a blast! There ain't no characters telling you what to do. You just go adventuring, dude. There's a great, vast open world built for you to experience and discover secrets. On top of that, there's a dope combat system that not only feels satisfying, but requires you to think on your feet. Instead of mindlessly mashing the A button to slay your enemies, Zelda 2 demands you to learn the different battle stances to thrive in a daring, deadly duel. So you gotta know the standard slash, duck slash, jump slash, and the friggin' down thrust. Oh, you know what I'm talking about. You play Smash Bros and just slice through the air, piercing opponents' heads. Yeah, that cool move came from Zelda 2, guys. If you're into thrilling adventures filled with exhilarating combat, give Zelda 2 a shot and tell them Peridactyl Show sent you.